Hey, everybody out there. I'm still setting up. I was up until about 3 minutes ago feeding my daughter. Uh, so even though I actually started, let me get closer here. Even though I had started to actually put things together a little bit earlier this week, I'm still kind of like catching up. Let me do this. I'm gonna. Hey, Boer. Las Cruces. Let me. Trying to see. Hey, Trev. I wanted to share the link if anybody wanted to just hang out. I don't remember how to do that. Is it under stream info? Let's see. No. Hey, Evil. All right, so I literally just got down my stairs about 2 minutes ago. I did actually come down earlier just to get the box out that I'm working in today. And yeah, okay. Where's the invite? Guess? Let's see. Invite guess. Okay. There we go. Okay, and did it post? Where is it posting? Yeah, Wellbore. I like to do. I would love to do it from the couch as well. My wife said no, especially this type of show. Hold on a second. I guess. Yeah, my chat's not coming up. That's the problem. Oh well. Copy. Okay. Let me try something. Just trying to see if there's a way I could just put like a reply. I don't know why my thing's not. Oh, here, hold on. Let's try it this way. There we go. Yeah, I've only been using StreamYard for like 2 years now, so I'll figure it out one day. Yeah, so I did start preparing early, and you might have to mute here and actually go to the YouTube. I don't. Do you see it? I just put it up. Like I could see it in the chat. We'll see. Like I said, I mean, I've only been using this for like 2 years now, so we'll figure it out one day. I'm actually not going to re-up my subscription when it comes up. I think it's in May. It's just like I'm sure anybody who's used this knows that the price has gone up a whole lot, and yeah, it's just not going to pay it anymore. Yeah, so I might just downgrade to the free one, but I know you won't have all your own backgrounds and whatnot, but that's fine. Anyway, oh, we do have somebody here, so it did work. It's a stage. Mike coming to the stage. How you doing?
Howdy.
How-
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for walking me through something I probably should have known, but here we are.
I mean, it changes every time they do like an update, so it hasn't stayed the same.
Yeah, and that's kind of annoying. And then I was just saying, I don't know if you heard, the pricing is going up big time. I think it actually already has, but I had to re-up, so I'm good until May. So I'm probably not going to have the paid service where you use all your own background and icons and whatnot. It's just going to be the free one.
I went out on the pay thing because it just got. I mean, for what I was doing, it's not something that's viable. The price they're asking, because I think at the time it was like $50 a month. I can do like 25, 30 seems reasonable. Especially because it's just really a go between YouTube. I mean, technically, I could stop being lazy and stop using StreamYard and just use YouTube Live. I haven't tried that, but I mean, I don't mind the free StreamYard. Like it's worked for me so far. I mean,
Yeah,
because I'm on my phone anyways, and it's limited. Like StreamYard's version on your phone is already limited. So even when I had the paid, like the only thing that I gained was just allowing more guests or the hours that I could record. Other than that, like it's not really worth it in my mind, especially the prices are asked. I waited for the Black Friday thing because we usually get a really good Black Friday deal, like a year for, I think one year it was like a whole year for like $10.
yeah.
Um, no, this past Black Friday was like horrible. I think it was like $80 or something, and it wasn't even. It was like half a year or something. I
Yeah.
was like, oh god.
They had they had, from what I've heard, I should say, it was a kind of a hostile takeover situation. Oh, Naman's here. Let's add Naman.
Hey guys.
What's up,
Hey,
Naman?
Mike.
And now I'm covering.
Fantastic. Phil, what's up? Long time no hear.
Yeah, how you been?
Yeah. I can't stay too long, but I figure I'd drop in a little bit since I
Okay.
was.
Yep. Talking about StreamYard. Yeah, from what I understand, they had a hostile takeover at some point in the past year or so. So the two guys who basically built it, and then this has been their passion and just pushing it along, just got pushed out of their company.
Yeah, I'm gonna my 1 year expires soon here, so I'm not gonna renew.
Yeah, same here. Mine is I think what I wound up doing, not this past Black Friday, but last Black Friday, Mike, was taking advantage of that deal, but because I was like already midway in, they just kind of like tacked it on. I think that's why I'm solid until May. But
Sounds right.
just like you were saying, I do everything from my phone as well, so I don't have all the bells and whistles and everything. So that's kind of
Can you make a vertical because your face is all covered up by your logo?
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, that kind of only worked a little bit.
I mean, all three of us.
Yeah, you can change the layout.
Let me see.
Okay,
Yeah,
he's
you
doing
have
with the phone. He's doing with the phone, so.
Yeah, and that you have to play with because I can say like I have different options like on the phone as a guest versus like an admin because when I'm on my channel it has like all different, it has like regular options, but as a guest it only shows me like mic, cam, chat, and that's about it.
Yeah,
Like
I
it
mean,
is.
I'll
I
use it
can't.
kind of like I'm Dr. Claw. There you go, from Inspector Gadget.
Grand 24. How did you get grandfathered? And I was on StreamYard since 2008. See what the.
Yeah, Trev, I would double check with their service line because the most they
Oh, wait a second. I'm grandfather in too, but I've been buying the high grade
Deluxe.
ones. I've been upgrading
Yeah.
all this time, so I'll see if they'll let me go back to that $24.99 rate.
Yeah, I think
Only
that's
if they'll let
maybe
me go
that's what
back.
mine was because I was doing deluxe at one time, and like when I went back to like the basic, it was like the expensive one. I was like, oh, so it
Yeah.
might have been something.
All I know is as soon as they sent out that email that said, "Hey, we're increasing our prices," blah 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 blah. It was like I messaged them and they're like, "Oh no, well you're good until May." So like, all right, I'll deal with it then. But yeah, either way, it's disappointing. But just like you said, I think YouTube Live has gotten a lot better from what I understand.
Mhm.
Hey, Old Wolf and JSS. I'm
Tony?
sorry. I think YouTube Live has gotten a lot better, and I'd imagine there's probably 100 other streaming things that we just don't know about.
Oh yeah, there's a company called Restream that does similar things. So
There's
Really?
another one that I know Robin and Neil were playing around with. I think it was like a Canadian based. Because I know there's also like a Canadian based YouTube that's getting popular too.
OBS software, Yes.
What is it?
Yeah, because OBS is pretty powerful tool.
Oh yeah,
OBS.
Mhm.
yeah. OBS though, you need a
Yeah.
laptop. You can't use that on your phone.
Yeah, yeah. OBS is a pretty powerful tool. You just need to figure out how to use it, then you should be able to do similar things with it.
Yeah, you never know. We might be moving to that.
I'm just going through. I figured last time I went through the long box, it was all X-Men stuff. So I decided this week I'm just going to go through my Daredevil box. This is probably stuff I would part with.
YouTube.
What's that?
No, it's Wellbore. He was like, it's called YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
The Canadian YouTube. Yeah, the Canadian YouTube. I like all the X-Men stuff, but I mean, you know, I like variety, you know, some variety as well.
Yeah, and I mean, look, that's one of like I think I have 40 boxes in the other room. So, granted, a lot of those are X-Men, but I figured I'll change it up a little. So I figured let me grab my Daredevil box out of the way. There was actually I was trying to grab my old like 90s Image box, but it's just too much in between, and I can't lift long boxes like I used to. Yeah, so just starting off with, I have Daredevil 1/2.
Look, what you do is you touch your picture, like you have to physically use your finger and touch and hold your picture and drag it and move it to my spot.
All right, I'm gonna hide you.
Yeah, you'll put me behind the look. There you go, so we can see that. Or you can make you big while you're.
I'm big enough.
Let's go, China. No.
In case you're tuning in, welcome to Tech Support with Evil Mike.
Right.
Yeah, I got my Daredevil 1/2. And that's one of the things, you know, we lost kind of with Wizard. I totally forgot about was the half issues.
Mm-hmm.
Go for those.
I before I've had some, and I read them, but I could tell you they're all weird, and like even though like I just read X-Men 1/2, and like they never really like fit in like they're supposed to, or like I don't know. Like if you read X-Men 1 and then go to 1/2 and then go to 2, you're talking about the art change, you're talking about the story. It's just a weird. I remember reading Spider-Man. Spider-Man was okay.
Yes, I think by the time they got to the Marvel halves, it was more of like when they started, it was all Image stuff. I remember I have somewhere the Max 1/2, and it kind of fit into it because it was like, hey, this is a new series, a new company, so it's like a nice little preview. But by the time you got further down the chain, it was like, hey, send us money.
Hey, anyway, I better get going. I just want to drop in for a little bit. Phil, Mike, I just want to see you guys and say hi.
And everybody.
And I can't stand Mike being on that logo. So he had you see beautiful Mike's face. So you know,
most people just enjoy the voice anyway. So
anyway,
bye now, man.
Have a good day, guys. Have a good one, guys. I'll be on backstage. I mean, I'll be on the chat.
Bye. If make sure you check out at least Naman's YouTube page and IG. Wonderful artist, great community artist. So
awesome.
Thanks, man. Thanks for the good words.
Hey, Dope's here. Evil ASMR. There you go. And I collected Daredevil more of like in the late 2000s. This is the oldest one I have is 24, and I think this is actually a gift. So that's where what I did is when I went back to the hobby and reacclimated with X-Men, I was like, I want to expand a little bit, and I started picking up little things kind of like mid-run, and then anything I liked, I kind of went a little bit further and expanded. So that's why some of my Daredevils do go a little back. This is one of my favorite covers, I have to say, the run. Number 37. Thanks, Naman.
That's cool cover.
Yeah.
I can say Daredevil is actually one of my favorite characters, but I don't have a lot of extensive reading knowledge with him. Technically, I've only read his newer series, like his last 4 runs recently, but before then, all my knowledge exists just based off of animation, games, stuff like that.
Yeah, I stopped It was shortly after Charles Soule started, and
Mhm.
I really like Soule's work, but it's either I love it or I don't. There's no in between for me. And I had read a couple issues of his run, um, and I was just like, I'm not into like the direction it was going. I didn't like he had introduced a blind sidekick, blind side. I was like, all right, it's
Mhm.
on the nose. So I think the last issue from his run I bought, and it wasn't in order, was one where like Matt Murdock was in a casino, and I thought that was at least kind of interesting because it's like, how does a blind person? Um,
Operate at a casino.
yeah, exactly. Hey, Kingdom of Nerds, thanks for subbing.
Hey, Bruce.
Okay, 113. This is actually a pretty clean cover. I'm kind of surprised for a white cover.
Gladiator.
Yeah. Are you going to be watching the new series, Mike?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was saying, and I say I watch all comic related like TV shows and movies, even if I don't know the property. For many reasons. One, if I don't, I look forward. Like for instance, Paper Girls. I had not read that story before I had watched the show. I enjoyed the show, and it did exactly what they intended. It got me to go read the book, and I did like the book a lot better. But I watched. I'm excited for every like iteration of. I mean, whether I like them after we get them is a different story.
Yeah.
No, but I always get excited. Like I'm excited for both, Captain America, Thunderbolts, like, and I don't have the restriction of DC versus Marvel. I do have a higher passion for DC, but I mean, it's just currently it's shifted my whole life. Um, nah, but I like that's like everything we have out right now: Creature Commandos, Agatha, anything comic related. Yeah, especially as a influencer, and I hate that moniker, but I feel like it's part of our duty to stay on top of like these type of pop culture things.
Well,
Kind of.
I agree with you within reason. I think that there are people who go a little too hard with that role. Oh, I got to replace this begging board. I'll put it separate.
I wouldn't say necessarily like you got to be there day one or sneak previews to everything. No, I don't. But
There are people who are like that, and
yeah. And if money, yeah, I mean, if you can afford that, of course. But
yeah, I mean, look, I've already resided to the fact that, look, missing the amount of spoilers I did with Daredevil and Wolverine, I felt like was achievement in its own, but it was not Daredevil Wolverine. I'm sorry, Deadpool Wolverine, but it was really, really hard to do, as you can imagine. Um, I'm kind of resided to the fact now. It's like, look, things are going to come out. You're not going to see it when it comes out, and that's fine.
I mean, some things I let build up. You know, there's some TV shows I do that with, like Shogun, for instance. I already had like a high passion for the show. I already had like, I mean, um, cinematography wise, I had the actors that were involved in before the show. So I already kind of had an inkling that I was going to enjoy the show. So versus like rushing it, I kind of slow boated it. I didn't, complete the show until after, like way after, I think weeks after the season ended. But I really, because sometimes I enjoy watching like back to back episodes or so. Like, right, I'm a huge Dexter fan. I've enjoyed all of it, even though it does have some hiccups. Not a huge fan of the way it ended. The next series was okay. I'm not a big fan of the way that ended, but I am excited that they're continuing on with it. So I didn't rush out to watch Dexter New Blood. Now it's got like I think 6 or 7 episodes, but I mean, getting into Dexter New Blood now that I started it like weeks later, like I have the episodes there, and it surprisingly it is good, and it's fun when you get that bingeable, when you can watch more episodes. I'm also the different type of movie watcher where I enjoy long format versus the short format. I like people complain about long movies, and that's not me. I can, I mean, at the theater, I can see the complaint. At home, I don't. You can pause, you can, and I get that you don't want to watch movies and fractions, but I mean, that's what a TV show is, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I binge very few things. The only thing that my wife and I really binged, I'm trying to think. Um, I think we binged Agatha a little bit, um, but the only time that we've really binged something that we were intending on breaking up was the Snyder Cut, and that was, I'm surprised my wife agreed to watch it because I was like, yeah, it's going to be a long one, but they break it up into parts, and we were
Yeah.
and neither of us liked the first Justice League film. So
Oh, no.
I was kind of like, I can't see what they're going to do to really
Improve it.
prove it. And like, but by the time I got to the break, I was like, I'm shocked. And she was like, yeah, let's just keep going. He was like, okay. And look, we were both bleary eyed the next day, but we pulled it off. And it goes to show you, I think that if you have something that's quality and it can suck somebody in, they'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And they'll watch
Okay.
it.
So it's fun because I get to see two different comparisons of, I mean, because there's many different movie watchers and TV would like the way they do it, the way what they like to. Okay, so me and my brother we're similar in some ways, but exact opposites in many others, especially like our movie watching. Like, for instance, I watch almost everything with subtitles, whether it needs it or not. I still read and I like to read, so I do watch almost everything I watch with subtitles, whether it warrants it or not. Like I still have them on. Um, my brother does not like watching movies like if it warrants the captions. He wants it, verbally, that kind of stuff. Oh, I love Severance. I'm so excited for the second season. And that's gonna be one I slow boat because how much I love the first season.
I
Um,
have to give Severance a shot. Every time I've tried to watch it, I don't really get too far through the first episode. Like it feels too like depressing to me.
Okay, so Severance, I can compare it to a couple different shows to get you hyped up about it because it has a lot in similarity with Squid Games, with Lost, stuff like that. Because it is a show that gets you to dramatically think outside of the show. Like it creates that mystery, and I love those type of shows because it warrants conversation outside of the show. You meet another fan and you spit back and forth, the mysteries that are in the show, that kind of stuff. Um, Severance takes a little bit to get a grip on like what's really going down, and I can say that it is depressing. There's because the whole premise of it and just thinking about the idea invokes there to be a sadness, because it's about like a person splitting themselves where half of that person is forced to constantly be at work and the other one gets to live without the work. So like you have to imagine, like if you were to split yourself and they knew of each other, and like that other one was always forced to work and that's all they were allowed to do, like you have to know there's going to be some sadness tied with that idea. And not just sadness. I'd say some other emotions come to mind, like anger and um, no, but it's a very thought-provoking show. And I can say there are some ground things that people might not like about it. It pushes some boundaries as far as sexuality, as far as but it's sci-fi, and a good sci-fi to me, they should push boundaries. I mean, and not just one boundary, many boundaries. I think that's what made Star Wars great back in the day, and Star Trek, and Blade Runner, and
See, here's the thing, too, that like in your comparisons, that like when you're saying, yeah, it's kind of like Lost and Squid Games. I've never watched Squid Games. The only episode of Lost I ever saw was the final episode, and the only reason I saw that was I was doing a sleep study, and it was when you had to go into the hospitals to do them, and I couldn't sleep, and that was like literally the only thing on. So I was like, well, here's the ending to a show that I've never watched.
I could say Bath or both are bad references for different reasons. Lost, um, the ending, most people being torn on whether they like it or not. I enjoy the show overall, but I know the background story to the show, and like it paints a different picture, so I'm fine with that. It's one of the shows I wish we would get like a rebuttal, a redo, a reboot, with the whole story intended, no, but okay, Squid Games is a hard push for many reasons because it's predominantly like horror. Like Lady F, I was trying to sell her on the show, and she binged the whole thing, and for good reason. But it was a hard sell because it does have that horror element, attached to the show. If you're not a fan of horror, you know, but what pushed past that is it's just a tag they put on the show. It's not really horror. I mean, they do have blood and stuff like that. It's kind of the name of the game. No, but I mean, it's kind of like my mom. My mom was not a fan of Hunger Games, and it was simply based on the idea that it was a game that was involving children, having to kill themselves. And we're talking about before the movie came out. She was not a fan of the, idea of the book and that kind of thing. Um, I think it just depends on the individual and what you're, willing to, what holes you're willing to jump down, kind of thing.
Madam said you taught her into watching The Substance.
I love The Substance, and The Substance is also another like hard push. And it comes with a strong, like very strong warning. It has some of the most extreme body horror I've ever seen in a movie, and I'm talking about like compared to Human Centipede. And if you know that movie, that's extreme body horror. Substance, like, I mean, it was a fantastic film. It's one of my like top movies from this year, and I've seen it like now I think 3 times. It's such like it's such a phenomenal piece as far as like how the, the human persona views themselves, that kind of thing.
I'm trying to think, as I know the name. I can't picture really anything else about it though.
The Substance is about it follows Demi Moore, and she is a huge like fitness guru TV star in like the late 80s, early 90s, and she's being phased out due to age and her body, that kind of thing. She's I think in the movie she's supposed to be like 50s, 60s, something like that. She still looks good, but as far as like what Hollywood execs want, they want the new, they want the fresh. So The Substance is about like someone overhears her plight and kind of suggests this medical procedure, and it's shown in the very beginning of the movie what the substance does. The substance literally creates like a kind of a carbon copy of you, but it's the younger, like it's you at your best kind of thing. So it's you like during your fittest time, it's you when you looked your best, it's you when your body looked your best, when your brain was at its best, kind of thing. And it basically like it splits out of you, and for 7 days that you gets to live, and then for another 7 days you get to go back to the other you, and it's back and forth. But that's basically what The Substance is about. Is once you do the substance, you create like a carbon copy kind of split image of yourself, but the younger version.
I mean, it does sound interesting. It might be something that
I would agree with Aaron. The ending is probably like, I want to say it's so hard to phrase because the movie has like a straightforward path, the whole movie. I mean, you're talking about cinematography wise, music wise, acting wise, everything is a straightforward path. It pushes boundaries and stuff like that, but it's pretty much, I saw it, and then it does get to a certain part where they take the sci-fi element and they ask like another what if question, and past that what if question, it gets like extreme, like weird, and it's not bad, but it's just like it's jarring, like how like serious the first half of the film is, and then you get to the end and it's more like a B-rated horror film kind of thing.
Hmm. I don't know. Maybe I'll check out at least the preview. I don't know that it's something my wife would want to sit down and watch. It might be something I have to wait until.
It is extreme. But if you have any issues with needles going into skin, if you have any issues with people cutting into flesh with surgery, you're gonna have an issue. My brother gets sick like when he physically sees, a needle going into skin, even though he knows it's fake, it'll get him to pass out, kind of thing. So I mean, if you have any kind of restrictions like that bothers you, do not watch The Substance, because I want to say like that there's a good like every other scene you're seeing a needle going into a body, or it's body horror to the extreme. It's a great film. It's got a great story, but it comes with some mixed. I mean, you're talking about. I would recommend Terrifier before like The Substance. Like
Oh,
the Terrifier is a little like less on the body horror than The Substance was.
yeah. We probably won't be able to watch it with my wife. Then I think I told you we had an issue in our house, and since then, um, anything remotely scary, we can't watch. Well, my wife can't watch it, or else it'll actually keep her up. Um, and it could be even like the mildest type of things, like um, Stranger Things.
Madam,
Last season.
Madam, you'd have to relay that, because I'd imagine this has a different. Okay, because it's not just genre and horror. It's not a slasher. It's not about monsters. It's all about self-image, really, and it's how you view yourself, and how So I mean, this is like a horror on elements within the person who watches it. Do you have a issue with who you are and stuff like that? So it could be scary. The body horror stuff, imagery, that stuff is scary. Like there's a lot of that. But as far as it being horror and stuff, like no one's being chased. No one, there's not really any that kind of tension. It's more like what Demi Moore goes through the movie versus like what it means to it's that choice. Like if you could turn back time and go back to your younger self, would you do it? And would you do it knowing that it came with a price? And knowing the price, would you still do it? Like it's those kind of questions. And like during the movie, she's shown the prices, not up front, but she's shown the prices that she would have to pay to continue doing what she's doing in the film. And it's the choices that the individual makes based on that self imagery, what you value, kind of thing.
So it's not like a gross out, scary horror movie. It's more. It's
And
more.
it's more psychological.
Yeah.
It does. It's body horror. It does have a lot of gross out stuff. That's the, as far as like what the imagery shown, it's a lot of gross out stuff. But as far as like horror wise, nah, it's a lot of like psychological.
Okay. Maybe we might be able to do it then. I gotta ask.
You'd have to watch a preview, and I'm talking about if you could watch a Red Band preview. Because if you just watch a regular preview, it'll probably look like a fitness trailer. Like I mean, but you're talking about Demi Moore is the only one mentioned, but her younger self is played by like an extremely talented actor that looks a lot like a younger Demi Moore. Dennis Quaid is in that movie, and he is fantastic. Actually, Dennis Quaid, if I had to admit, is a lot of the horror and gross out scenes, and it's not anything. It's just because a lot of the times you see Dennis Quaid in the movie, there are a lot of like very ASMR close-up scenes of him eating the grossest stuff you can think. like hot wings, and they're just and it's like the camera is like right there, so close. You're just seeing juices, and that's the type of horror that's in the, it's more like gross out, like
So it's not something you can eat. You could watch and like eat dinner to, or have a snack to necessarily.
I would say no, but like me, I don't, that stuff doesn't bother me, so I could do that. But I would generalize most people no. Um, and Aaron is right. Like if you want to see Demi Moore naked, and not just the top of it, like if you want to see her completely naked, you get to see a lot of her, and the actress that plays the younger. There's a lot of straight up nudity in this film.
Hmm.
And not like where they hide certain. No, they show everything. Like
I remember, I think the last movie I watched with Demi Moore in the theaters when I was in high school, went to go see um, Striptease. And I remember the movie was, other than, oh, hey, here's Demi Moore, it was so bad. I think we actually walked out of it.
yeah, Striptease is pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, visually it was pretty, but story wise, it was just not that interesting.
There you
You're
go.
talking. You're talking about Showgirls was kind of the same thing. I'd say if you wanted to see more of Demi Moore during that time, go see G.I. Jane. Because she was either nipply or like out of the, pretty much that whole movie. Um, and my brother, for some reason, is a big Demi Moore fan. He'll tell you about some slip ups. For me, she was okay. I mean, I enjoyed. I was more a Bruce Willis fan, so the fact that they were like an item back in the day was kind of like the cool thing about Demi Moore for me. But
When I was a kid, I used to remember how TV Guide every so often you'd have, or maybe it was actually in the newspaper itself, they would show a actor and then like a list of all the films he'd been in. This was before IMDb was a thing. Um, I cut out the Bruce Willis one, and when I was a kid, I was like, I'm gonna go see every Bruce Willis movie I can, and I got pretty far back in the list that was in the paper. I might still have the list at my mom's house somewhere. To be honest with you, but I just got to, was it like the early 2000s when he just made some like really terrible, terrible movies. I was like,
oh, you went that far.
yeah, yeah, I don't really need to do this anymore.
I mean, I want to say I had the same track as a movie lover growing up, where like I got attached to certain actors and actresses, and like I went through their repertoire and stuff of what I could get. Like speaking of which, Arnold was one, and I can remember going back to like his first couple of movies, and like I was like, this is the guy I love," like and like I think it was my father who just explained it. We all got to start somewhere, kind of thing. Because me with Arnold was like Conan, and I mean he was just in so many big movies at that time, and it's funny because most of those were rated R films that at an early age I was allowed to watch. Like I mean Conan, Total Recall, that the first Terminator. I was allowed to watch all that like early.
But
Um,
older films now that are rated R, like when we were kids, would be more closer to like a PG-13 now. To be fair,
I think it depends. If we're talking about like maybe 10 years ago, I'd agree, but lately it's been harder to say. But I want to say the rating system doesn't really justify what's in the movie just because it says PG-13. I've seen a lot of them that are straight. They should have been R's, and then there's some R-rated movies. You're like, why did they make this R? There's hardly any blood. I don't know. There's certain NC-17 movies that don't have a rating. I feel like they certain things they warranted to rate. I don't know.
yeah, I remember years ago when Kevin Smith was talking about Zack and Miri. I think it was Zack and Miri Makes a Porno. They wanted to rate it NC-17 at first.
Mhm.
And he supposedly at the time was the only person to successfully argue down a rating without making any cuts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're right. Because there was a lot of debacle about that film, and that one and another one around the same time too. But they both focused on the pornography,
Yeah.
industry, and I remember that it was just because they had scenes that were like, that were modeled to be like pornography, but there wasn't actually any, and that was the fight against that. And I'm with Aaron. Beastmaster is one of my favorite movies. On top of that, it's one that's never been re-released. Like you're not gonna find it on. Like if you find it on DVD, you're gonna have to go to China to get a copy of it. Because we've physically never we have it on streaming services, but physical format, we've never actually like digitized it further past VHS, which is so disappointing. But it's because of exactly what Aaron pointed out. It's a PG movie that should have been R. There's nudity in that movie. There's beheadings. There's a lot of blood. Like, and like growing up, like they had it on TV, and like even back then, there were scenes that they hadn't edited right, where you could still see a boob slip and stuff like that. Um, no, but that's part of the reason Beastmaster has never been like re-released in newer format.
Do you see older films now from when you were a kid and you're like, was I allowed to watch this? Or maybe something that just messes up the entire premise for you?
For me, it's more like the adjustment of seeing things when I was a kid versus an adult, and it's more of how did this hold my attention, or like man, I was into simplistic stories kind of thing. Um, it's more like different eyes, like my child eyes versus my adult eyes. Um, as far as like what I was allowed to watch and stuff like that, my dad had a pretty good way about it, but both my parents, because they were divorced, but. Um, when it came to rated R movies, and we were allowed to watch them in our house, but not by ourselves until a certain age. Like after, I want to say after like 10, that kind of went out the door. Especially because I was a pretty huge horror fan, like my whole life. Evil has been there like since I since I was a little bitty kid. It's not a nickname that I gave myself. Like, um, okay, so with rated R films, like my parents would, back in the day we had VHS, or they'd go to the theater and they'd watch it beforehand. And my dad actually would go through the film and he'd take a notepad and he'd write down like if it had like too much blood or if it had nudity. And that what he would do is if it was a long scene, he would either fast forward it if it didn't have any like story parts or anything that I'd be missing as far as, so he would either just fast forward it or he just like simply cover our eyes during that scene, and he had it all timed down. So I mean, I watched like the first Terminator, and it was like I want to say I was like 10 or 11 when I saw the full like Terminator, without somebody closing, stuff like that, like
Yeah.
hiding scenes.
I don't think I saw the first Terminator until after I saw the second one. Because the second one, I think, was the first I could remember the first time that my dad was like, I didn't even ask to see it. He was like, "Hey, this is a rated R movie. You and I are going to go see this." I was like, "Okay."
I can remember like my first like the first time my parents let us go to the movie theaters by myself was TMNT, the first movie when that was released, and they dropped us off at the theater, bought our tickets, and then let us go without parent supervision. My first rated R movie I got to go to like with parent supervision was Demolition Man. Like I remember that was a big thing, and it was my grandfather. My parents made a big deal. Um, they did not want to let me go. My grandfather was like, "We're going." Um, no, but
Nice.
I, I can remember like so I was a rule breaker, so I did sneak into a lot of movies. I would tell my parents I was going to see a certain movie, like after they made the mistake of dropping us off at the movie theater. After that, I mean, like I took liberties with that, and they would drop us off, and we were supposed to go see a movie, and I'd go see like you know anything I wanted, kind of thing, and I would go sneak into rated R movies, like Like I was watching all the Friday the 13th Nightmare on Elm Street. Like some of those, I either bought tickets even as a kid, or I just simply snuck in, like waiting for somebody to come out of a back door and whoop.
Hmm. I
I
yeah. See,
go
I
ahead.
never really was like the sneaking into like a theater type of. I think it was just because I honestly I went to the movies with my dad probably long after I should have. Just because, like you, my parents were divorced, and that was kind of like our weekend activity. Like my sister and I wanted to go to a movie, and it was something where we would kind of go back and forth. Like, okay, well, you pick this week, then your sister picks the next week. But I think the last movie I saw with my dad, and we went like every weekend religiously. Occasionally, like we did something like, hey, we're gonna do something else because it's summer and I don't want to sit in the theater. But you, most of the year we were at the movies every weekend. To the point where we used to go to, I'll keep it local now. I don't think the Brettons are on, but the Headquarters Plaza in Morristown, the AMC that's still there, they started that movie club where every time you went, you got a card and it like punched it out. And we were like the first people to complete a card, and they were like shocked, like, "Oh, some people we figured would take all summer to do this. You guys did it in like 3 weeks." It's like, yeah, but I think the last movie I remember going to see with my dad, um, it was either The Crow or The Professional.
Both
I
good movies.
can't remember which one came out first. And then my younger brother was born like the following week, and it was like, yeah, I can't go to the movies now. I have to help at home, which I
We
understand.
had we had that story like in a couple different movies, like Adam's Family Values had come out, and we were big fans of the first movie. And at the time, it was like me, my sister, my brother, and my third brother was being born, and it was that weekend. So instead of like my parents taking us to the movie, of course they're at the hospital and blah blah blah. They bought us like the movie novelizations of the film, so I can remember like we had to wait like 2 weeks to go see the movie or whatever. And like I can remember just rereading the novelization before the film. And people talk about spoilers, like um
Yeah,
no, but I did have a couple movies that were like off put like that, like Due to a Birth or
I don't remember.
we
I don't think I ever saw the second movie.
we did. It wasn't as good as the first one. It was good, just not as good. I don't know. There's parts of the second one I like. Because the second one is more like they go to like a summer camp and they do this like holiday, like Thanksgiving thing. I
Yeah,
don't know. It's,
I remember somebody trying to explain it to me. And it was like, but it's Adam's Family. Why they camp?
yeah, that's kind of the weird part is they like everybody around them is like I don't know why movies do that. You always want them to like, yeah, let's see the kooky and the weird. Let's get more of that. And Hollywood's like, oh, let's just do regular and normal. That's what people want to see. I don't know why that's a thing. No, but no, the second one's not a bad film. It's just the first one. It's just for a sequel, it's one of those sequels where it is kind of like a downgrade kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. They didn't have MC Hammer to write the song the second time.
Right. Hey, soundtracks are a big thing.
Hey, look, don't get me wrong. I remember middle school, the Adams Family Hammer song was it. Forget it. But there you go.
I can remember MC Hammer just being big. Period. Hammer.
I
Um,
think last I heard, he had tried to make some sort of like a streaming site. This is all pre-COVID, where it was like dance competitions. But I don't know how that went.
I haven't heard. I have no clue without cheating and looking up on Google. I would be able to tell you what Hammer's been doing. I do know that he is a force to reckon with within like the music industry. I do know that you do not talk bad about Hammer, and this is like known from some of the hardcore, most like rappers out there. Um, that he will have you beat or shot if he overhears you making fun of MC Hammer kind of thing. I do know that. And it's like there's many stories about like, like like a big gangster rapper making a comment in front of Hammer, and Hammer. Uh, there's a couple I can think of. No, but no, as far as what he's doing, I have no idea. That's like Vanilla Ice. Everybody wants to make fun of him, but I mean, he actually went on to be like a successful movie producer, and he did a couple of the other things outside of his music career.
Well, yeah, the last I had heard with him, I remember he was on some radio show being interviewed. This is at least probably like 15 years ago. He had just launched some home improvement show that he was doing. And shortly after, he actually got arrested because he had said, and he did it on the show, he went into what he thought was an abandoned house. It looked. You're right there, Mike?
No, I'm smoking.
Um,
Yeah, but I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I cough when I smoke. That's why I mute.
I didn't see you start the beginning cough, so I thought maybe we had a problem at first.
I do that off camera, I try not to highlight that part of it. It's known that I do smoke, but I still don't try to highlight it.
Yeah. But
It goes into me living in Texas and it being illegal, so no.
yeah, like he
Ooh.
went into a house that he thought was abandoned and took the AC unit. And
Yeah, and it wasn't.
Right, yeah. And I don't know if he went to jail for that or what the whole outcome was.
Yeah, I think he settled like out of court or something like that. I remember. I do remember that.
Are there any TV shows or films that you're looking forward to?
Severance just started, season 2. I think we got the first episode. I haven't watched it yet, even though I told some people I would last night, but I haven't got to it yet. But it's a show that I know I'm gonna showboat, so I'm not rushing it because I'm telling you, the first season was so good, and they made us wait like 3 years for the second season. Yeah, so I'm not rushing. I know some other shows that are coming out. I'm a huge Xeno fan, so Alien Earth. I am excited. And then that's something that I need to clarify because excited, I don't know if it like warrants that word to, I look forward to shows coming out, but as far as like excited, like, ooh, I can't wait to watch it. I don't know if I have that feeling
Yeah.
anymore. Like, I look forward to stuff coming out, but as far as like, I don't know if I have the excitement. I know there's movies that I'll, like I'm super excited for Superman, the Thunderbolts, Captain America. I wouldn't say I have excitement for it, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic with Superman, Thunderbolts, and Captain America. I know Brian was talking about a little bit this morning. I'm not bothered anytime you hear that there's been reshoots in a film. There's reshoots in every movie.
Yeah.
Realistically. The first trailer really got me good because it was like, oh, they're trying to go back to that Captain America Winter Soldier vibe.
Mhm.
Falcon, I like the actor. I think he's done a great job in the MCU. He always just seemed kind of like a silly character for me when they reintroduced him in the modern day.
Yeah.
And I liked him in the Falcon and Winter Soldier series a lot. So it's kind of like an asset. I have always hated the Red Hulk storyline.
Mm.
So I know they're not following the storyline, but I'm just hoping that they do better.
Do something with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so lo and behold, I don't know a lot about the Red Hulk. I mean, I know who he is, and I know where he comes in. I know his power set and stuff like that. And I have read some of his, I've read most of the Thunderbolts run when he was a part of that. Outside of that, like, I don't know a lot about, Thunderbolt Ross's Red Hulk. So, I mean, for me, it's kind of all new. That's like I don't know a lot about Falcon in the comics, so anything they do with Falcon is, and I do like Anthony Mackie, but I will agree with you. They kind of have used him as a gimmicky, on your left,
Yeah.
and it worked for what it was. But now they're going for the serious tone. Are they going to be able to pull off that? And that I could see the hesitation behind that because I'm in the agreement. I like their show, and I can't remember what it was, the
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Fal yeah, Falcon and Winter Soldier. I enjoyed that show. I thought it was one of the better, like, Marvel, Disney Plus shows that we got, especially in the beginning. But I'm just trying to think, like, and they haven't done the seriousness that well since a certain point in the MCU. I would be a fan of it if the seriousness has worked. But we haven't got a lot of it, past, like, I'd say Civil War in the that was probably like the last, like, serious. I mean, you could say there were parts, that were like Tony Stark's. Okay, yeah. No, but as far as like the overall storyline, those were very serious movies. You're talking about Winter Soldier was very serious. They were more like espionage, that kind of thing. We did get a movie after that that was supposed to be modeled like that, and most people will agree it wasn't the best, and that was Black Widow. Black
Yeah.
Widow was supposed to be nothing but that.
Black Widow fell flat for me, to be honest with you.
I liked it. I'm not gonna say I loved it. I do love parts of it. I love Red Guardian. I love White Widow. I mean the inclusion. But as far as like the overall movie, it was a step down. Like I can see that. You know, um, it was like a straight to streaming movie, and it felt like it kind of thing,
You know
even
what?
though it shouldn't been.
You know what? I think that would have been the great twist to do there, and they played it too safe. Is it would have been great if it was revealed like in the final act or something, because they have always said, oh, she's got a lot of blood in her ledger, she's got a lot of red in her ledger. It would have been great if it was revealed that she knew the general's daughter was in the room at the time that she tried to kill him,
Mm.
and she just was like, I don't care, I need to do the mission.
Yeah, she was just that stone cold. Yeah, I could see that.
That would have brought it in for me. But the fact that they were like, well, the two things that bothered me about the film is the fact that she was like, oh, well, I didn't.
Yeah, she played the part she didn't know. Yes.
Super spy. Come on, you had to know. Number one.
Yeah.
To me, it kind of like, I can understand you're introducing the White Widow, but then have where she's being chased by all these other widows. It kind of made it less special. It's like, okay, so why were you able to break free of the mind control and nobody else was? Like, make it. We want to know why this Black Widow is unique, because you kind of just made her not so unique.
Yeah.
Rad,
No, I mean,
way he's curious about Wonder Man. I am as well.
I am too. Like, okay, so that's the thing. I'm like curious and hopeful for every future comic. I mean, for me, because it's a win. I mean, this is what I've wanted. I can go back to when I was a teenager in the 90s, before we had the MCU and before, comic book movies and TV shows were a mainstay. This is what I was wishing for. And yes, in my wish back then, there was some muddled ground. I envisioned that not everything was gonna be golden, because that's the way the world works. I mean, so I'm extremely hopeful for every TV show and movie, and the hopes is it being good. For the progression of more. I have no idea about Wonder Man. Like, I have no idea who he is. Like, he's one of the few Marvel, like, people I have no knowledge on. Besides, like, I recognize who he is, but I couldn't even tell you his power set. That's how little I know about Wonder Man. But I do. I did.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I did like a little bit of the trailer, and I do love the actor that they got to play him.
Yeah, I was going to say, comic wise, the last thing I can remember reading what he was in that I read was, I think it was still during the Bendis Avengers, when he was a bad guy for like 4 issues.
Mm.
And it wasn't so much he was like a bad guy. It was like, I think he was kind of like, who were you? I don't know if it was pre or post Civil War, or during Civil War, where he was opposing them, like, who are you guys to make these type of thing?
Pure energy with Vision's brain.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about in all the different Marvel stuff I've read. He's just never popped in the stuff I've read. So I've never, I mean, I'm talking about he's never even made a cameo in anything I've ever read. And you're talking about all the different events and either that or he was so background I didn't even realize he was there kind of thing. Oh, Wonder Man. And it's no fault of the character. It's just, I mean, there's certain avenues within comics that I just stray away from. So I mean, that's like Brother Voodoo. He was another character that I had never come across, or but I mean,
Zero interest in Brother Voodoo.
I,
Because I was even thinking, was there not a Doctor Strange? No, I think that he like jump into the Avengers at one point. I feel like that's when I was like, I'm not really interested.
I mean, it's just not something I envision when I mean, like, I can envision him in the horror stuff, like House of Secrets, that kind of stuff, but as far as like him being anything attached to like the Avengers, I mean, we're talking about a voodoo doctor? I mean, how far does that story stretch? I mean, evidently it does, but just I don't know.
I'll say this though, not so much Brother Voodoo, but you're talking about voodoo and dark arts and stuff. Did you ever read? It's got to be. I'm going to say the third time. The Valiant rebooted Shadow Man.
Mm-mm. And he was actually one of the characters that I've never like read the 80 iteration, and I remember like all his iterations along my comic path, and for some reason
I don't know where he is now. There was a time I was picking up a lot of Valiant, and the only reason I stopped was because my LCS owner at the time, we're talking probably about 6 years ago or so, was like, well, nobody reads Valiant. I was like, I'm asking you to add it to my pulls. He's like, yeah, but nobody reads it, so I'm not ordering it. Former owner, he's not around anymore.
yeah.
But
you're like, I read.
Yeah, Valiant quietly building out this universe, because you actually had some characters who came out of Shadow Man, and then it worked very well with Ninjak at the time. But it was, I'm not going to say it was outright horror, but it was definitely darker, related to the point where it's like, I have to put this down because I feel like it's going to creep me out a little bit too much.
like the voodoo out of the pages was going to get you kind of thing. No, I get that.
Like, and then I'm always curious when I read something, I'm like, let me see how much of this is steeped in something and how much is just somebody made something up. And it was pretty authentic as far as
steeped in real life. Yeah. So you're walking on tabooed substance kind of stuff,
Yeah.
And I can say voodoo is not something you want to play with. I've had issues with it in real life. Back in Texas, like there's 2 horror stories but they're not fun. No, voodoo, you want to stay?
No, like I said, I had, around that time too, I think we may have just moved into this house, and we were starting to watch. This was like that span of time where Discovery had like 8 different ghost shows on at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
And we started having stuff happen here, and it was enough to be like, all right, we're not watching any of this stuff anymore. We're not reading any of this stuff anymore. Let's
the more you learn, the closer you get to that stuff, and then belief is a major bitch when you're talking about, especially like, okay, on voodoo, if you have someone that, I mean, whether you believe it or not, if you're around people that do believe, it changes, the outcome of how you deal with certain situations. Me and my ex, we moved into a house, and we had seen, like, found like images within the house. We didn't know what they were. I'm not, I haven't studied voodoo or anything like that. So after like looking into it and finding out what it was, it leads to some scary stuff. And, depending on your belief and the beliefs of others, it can either lead to a comical thing, or it could lead to some like scary stuff, some tension.
Yeah. One day I have to tell you the full story of what we ran into here. But you know, like I try not to, I tease it, but I try not to talk too much just because I've been told it could attract more things. So it's like, all right, let's
I've
play
been
it
told
safe.
the same. You know, I love stories. One of my favorite stories that during when I was younger, I worked at a fast food place and I was the manager. And like one of the ways that I would pass the day would be to relay stories. And at the time, I was searching for stories. I came across this one story that not only like fucked me as I read it and like retold it, but it fucked most of the people that I told it to because of the belief that was attached to the story. But yeah, some of the I mean that's kind of like ghosts. It's that you know there's certain things you don't get involved into until you like learn or you know because if you don't know the right things when just going ghost hunting, you know, I mean, you're just you know
Yeah,
you invoke certain stuff that you don't even know about, kind of thing.
yeah. Like even I'm on some like Facebook pages where people just go and explore abandoned buildings and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, I cannot see the like. Okay, fine, take your picture. I'll look at your picture. I'm not going into.
I've done that. I'm that guy that like I've and I don't know the appeal. Maybe it's a curiosity. Maybe it's being somewhere you're not supposed to. Maybe it's like for me, it's a lot of the horror. I look for the scary. Like I watch horror movies looking for the scare and you know that kind of stuff. Whether I find it or not, that's few and far between. So I want to say that plays a part in it. No, but I've been in like a band, like especially like I used to go to places that were supposedly haunted, or you know that they're said to be dangerous. You know, but I'm not dumb. Like I don't just you know I'm conscious about things, but you know, you don't. I mean, that's like going to abandoned places. You take all kinds of risk, and it's not uh, even before you get to the paranormal stuff. I mean, you take the risk of squatters, like homeless people, drug addicts, like you know, that somebody just trying to survive, I mean, most injured things around this world act a certain way when you find them. Um, so, I mean, you kind of like, you know, going into those things, you kind of have to have a plan set up in case you encounter these kind of things. And most of it was, you know, in our situation was run. Um, yeah, I didn't do this alone, I can say. Usually it was with a group of friends or at least another individual, something like that. I very few went by myself, and it wasn't that of like a fear type of thing. It was more just, um, you know, if something happens to me, you need to tell somebody, you know, kind of thing. No, but I've gone to cemeteries. I've done like haunted hotels. I could tell you I've been to some I've seen some paranormal stuff, some stuff that freaked me the F out. And most of those places were not abandoned. Like, you know, they were like one of the most creepiest places that I've actually gotten photo proof and like physically seen stuff and smelled stuff and was at was at a big like nice hotel in Galveston near Houston. Like and there was thousands of people there and you're talking about like we woke up in the middle of the night and like the whole floor of this hotel. We're talking about fancy. It smelled like rotten meat. Like and it lasted for like 45 minutes and it was coming into everybody's room where everybody was coming out of it. You had the like hotel people trying to it was some paranormal shit.
Well, I could tell you. You mentioned a hotel. You kind of remind me of something. First, before I forget, the abandoned places and stuff like that. My whole thing is, especially like you see people going to abandoned houses or farmyards. Like I know Paul's here. Paul lives a little bit further west of me. Um, I don't know if you have more like abandoned properties by you, Paul, or whatnot, but like in some of the New Jersey groups I'm in, like you see people going into these houses that it looks like people just like left in the middle of the day or left in the middle of the night or something like that. And my whole thing is, yeah, I mean, you have to worry about squatters, but some of these places, you know, they're not structurally sound. You know, I'm afraid you step on the floor, forget it, you're going through it. But the thing that you just kind of triggered in me, our first anniversary, we decided we were going to go up to Mystic. I surprised my wife, and we're staying at a regular hotel. You know, nothing fancy. And I remember my wife even talks about it to this day. She's like, she's like, I couldn't sleep because I felt like somebody else was in the room. And I usually pick up on stuff like that. I was like, I didn't really feel that way, but it wouldn't surprise me.
No, I've come across a lot, like, you know, the hair standing on the back of your neck situations, you know. I can say the funnest places I have explored is usually underground, like tunnels and caves and like sewers, and so because I have done a lot of sewer spelunking in Texas. It's all spread out, like especially in I mean, Houston is known as a large city, but it's still pretty spread out. There's a like as a kid. There were certain parts that we couldn't cross due to highways and freeways and stuff like that. One of the easier ways to travel was to actually go into storm drains and sewers and pass under the freeways. So we did a lot of that.
See, like in the early 2000s, there was a documentary about, I think it was called The Mole People of New York, with people who live in abandoned subway tunnels or abandoned, like they have whole little towns set up miles
Yeah,
under.
underground.
Yeah, they plug into electricity, they plug into the water.
I never seen that, but I mean the idea. You know, I mean I've seen the idea in movies and stuff like that. I could say in the sewers and tunnels, we never came across any evidence of like anybody living there. But while exploring, I have come across like in houses and like where I grew up, there was a big forest next to us, and while exploring that forest, we used to hunt out there, and it was massive, like I want to say 100 acres, and like in the middle of that forest, we found like this hand built shack, and there was a lot of evidence of somebody living there. I mean, like previously, it didn't look like they had been there for a while, but like and we were kids when we found it, but finding it like in a place that it wasn't supposed to have anybody, it was kind of scary. And like finding some of the effects within the shack, it wasn't too like you know, it didn't say good, you know, it wasn't a good thing finding the shack. No, but I've come across stuff like that, but as far as underground, never. And I've seen evidence of like, you know, you can tell like people have moved through something, but as far as living that, it's probably Texas, because in New York and stuff like that, I mean, you're talking about subway systems and massive tunnel systems. I don't think we had that, you know, because
Yeah.
where I was, it's mainly swamp, like swamp, like, you know, soil and that kind of stuff.
But check that out then, if you could find it. I don't even know if it's streaming or anything. I mean, you might be interested in that because, and then these are
Yeah.
people who stay down there. They'll get up, they'll go to the surface during the day, and it's like, oh, I'm going home.
It reminds me of the idea of Ninja Turtles, and you know, even though it was a like far out idea, I kind of believed it as a kid because of the idea that New York had those tunnels and stuff like that. And that was before even seeing New York for my eyes. I just believed, you know. Now I could see that the possibility of like, I mean, the fact that there were like abandoned, you know, once you heard the idea of like abandoned like train stations and subway stations, it kind of made sense that there was like routed power, water, that kind of stuff where someone could live down there.
Well, I have to wind everything down because my wife is calling me. But before we do, Mike, tell people what you got going on.
Today we're doing our third part of the Dragonlance Winners of something Dragons of Winter Night. We're talking about that book, and that's basically it. And then me and Trev on Sunday nights, you know.
Yeah, I'm actually might be able to catch you guys this Sunday, man. We're expecting bad weather here tomorrow, so usually Sundays I'll go to my in-laws, and that's why I haven't been on at all on Sundays. But if we're going there tonight, maybe I might be able to jump on. So we
Be
shall.
cool. Yeah, I think it like, and everybody needs to be safe. I know, like, there's a big like winter vortex storm that's passing again. We're about to get hit. And our numbers right now are like we're about to hit zero, and we're already going to like negative numbers. Monday for us is supposed to be -20. They said. I didn't even look at the what feels like. I was like, I'm staying indoors.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like
Yeah.
debating, like, because it's doable today. It's not too cold, at least right now. It's supposed to get really cold tomorrow. And like I said, it's supposed to, I think, have like 13 hours of snow or something like that. But where we are, it's like you're either going to get none of what they predict or all of it. So I'm hoping that we're getting none of it.
Last night ours started and we already got about 7 inches of snow, and it's continually snow. We're supposed, like, I don't know how much we're supposed to get, but our part of the storm technically doesn't hit until Sunday, and this is just the preempt. And like if I showed you outside, it's just white. Like,
yeah, well, you're in Canada. That's just, I thought that was like
right. Well, I'm in the mountains, so.
Well, yeah, there you go.
I'm not in the desert.
Thanks everybody for joining. Mike, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, it's fun.
I went through my my Daredevil and Electra box. Yeah, that's what's in that box.
It's a good box.
There we go. Not a bad one. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.